Hello and welcome. Did you know that having systems and processes in your business is proven to be one of the keys to success versus failure and thriving versus surviving? Please don't miss this episode where we dive into this rule of the game. You've tuned into the Better in Business podcast, and I'm your host, Jeannie Savage. I'm a multi-award winning business veteran and head of the Strategic Bookkeeper Network. My network of strategic bookkeepers is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs do better in business. This podcast aims to challenge your thinking. If you're not thinking the right way, how can you act the right way? Each episode will dive into key drivers of success, which I also call the rules of the game. Learn the rules and play to win. Let's go. I like to start every episode by reminding you that it is globally recognized that pillar number one for success is up-to-date, accurate bookkeeping, which is the only way you can see how your business is performing in terms of profit and cash. If your books aren't right up to date, visit betterinbusiness.global, drop me a line and I'll connect you with a certified strategic bookkeeper. Fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper. Bookkeeping is a cost, whereas strategic bookkeeping is an investment that averages a 10x return on the fees. Today I am interviewing the Systems Diva, Karen Carey. As a systems ninja myself, I can tell you that Karen is at the top tier globally for how she systemizes businesses. Key to her way is simplicity and user friendliness. Ultimately, Karen's client results speak for themselves, having taken many entrepreneurs from 5 to 6 to 7 figures by helping them to systemize. Karen is all about systems, processes, and automation, reducing tech overwhelm, using the right tech and using it well. I could go on and on about this phenomenal woman, but without further ado, welcome, Karen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Jeannie. I love the invite and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. You know that I was really pumped to have you come on because systems, I absolutely love systems. Many of our listeners will know my massive background in systems. I helped our family's business grow from 10 to 100 million. And a lot of it, that's where I learned the power of a beautiful system way back when Microsoft Office was the big IT, right? Something I loved about your story is that you are called the Systems Diva. Did you earn that title, Karen?
I do. I have trademarked that. So I have 30 plus years in information systems and technology. I actually taught at the University of Phoenix for 20 years, and I was certified to teach everything in the College of Information Systems and Technology. And so every corporate role that I held, I was either an IT director, an IT manager. So my entire adulthood has been embedded with information systems or information technology, and there is a difference.
Right, just okay. And I love this, and I want to explore this a bit more because I used to say, from my history, I'd say, you know what, it's about the tech and then the system and the team follows the system using the tech. Now, I noticed that you said systems, processes, and automation, which I just was like, oh, I love this because automation wasn't around when I did that. That was not a thing, right? Can you just tell us a bit more about, give us your thought leadership around systems, around this stuff and the how, how do we this weird landscape of AI, automatic tech overwhelm and everything, because I'm struggling as much as everyone else. Give us some pearls.
One of the things that I've noticed with growing and scaling a business, no matter the size, no matter the industry, in order to grow your business, you have to have a combination of systems, automation, and processes. Now, the difference is the only way I can automate so that you can work efficiently is if you have some defined processes. If your processes are a mess, and I automate that, now you have an automated mess on your hand. So what I do, in addition to implementing back office systems like the CRM, the customer relationship management, or the email marketing solution, or an online appointment scheduler, in addition to implementing those, we talk about the system. So a system is not necessarily an electronic means of making things happen. A system can be manual. It just needs to be well defined. So I help business owners to develop workflows so that they make sense. We streamline repetitive processes. We eradicate processes that really don't make sense. They've just always been done that way because that's the way we knew how to do them. And so I take a deep dive into their work to better understand what can be automated, what can be streamlined, and what systems will make this happen easily, quickly, and with less overwhelm. And so what I've learned is that a lot of people will buy or subscribe to a system that someone told them they needed. And so they pay for it every month, but they don't know how to use it, or they're not maximizing the use of it. And I am that person who will get my second win at midnight if I find a new feature in a system that I didn't know existed. And so now I'm up all night because I've just learned a new feature. So I am that person. I want to learn everything that a system says that it can do, because I want to make sure that when I'm working with somebody, I am making the best use of their time, maximizing their investments, and helping them to work efficiently. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, when I was an IT director, and we purchased a software. And it was a relatively new software, so we were early adopters. And this is not an exaggeration at all. I found most of the bugs in the software because I read through the manual, and everything it said I could do, I tested because I wanted to implement it. And I was literally flown to California, where the headquarters were. They introduced me to the development staff, and the VP said, "You are the first person who's ever really beta tested our software, because we had no idea there were so many bugs until you found them all." I was calling so frequently that they actually knew my voice. And so I really do believe in maximizing any investment that I make. And I do that because I want my clients to be able to work without overwhelm. So if it's something that I know will benefit their workflow, if it's going to increase their ability to make money, we're implementing it. And so I love Zapier because Zapier allows me to integrate disjointed systems so that the data can flow from one system to the other. And so I believe that my zone of genius is creating a holistic solution so that there is no overwhelm, but everyone gets exactly what they need.
Ooh, wow. So straight after the podcast, I'm engaging you. I'm a systems ninja. Well, like, I'm really good at this, but it actually doesn't matter. And the reason I say that, and I think this could be helpful for people listening, sometimes, number one, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing.
It can be.
Yes. And the next thing is, because even though I'm great at systems, I'm a Jill of all trades, like many people, right? But sometimes what happens when you're a Jill of all trades, you're master of none, you know? And so I don't wear the systems hat 100% of the time. You wear the systems hat 110% of the time, right? So I guess when you were chatting about all of that, I was thinking about the different places that the audience finds themselves in. So, for example, we might have a solopreneur, one-man band with no systems. We might have someone like myself or a client I'm thinking of who's got some great stuff going on, right? But it sounds like you've got the ability to add value, number one, to everyone. And number two, let's say for a business like myself or this other person I'm thinking of, where we've got some really great systems, you could come in, because what we neglect to do is actually what you talked about. We're so busy with the day-to-day doing work, Are we really looking at the new features available? Are we really leveraging that software to the best of its ability? And so you can come in and say, okay, yeah, love this, love that system, love that system. And if we, did a diagnostics and we did a plan, we could turn this beautiful Mazda into a Rolls Royce. We could, does that sound like something you do?
It does. And the reason is, if you think about it, and it does not matter if you're a solopreneur, it doesn't matter if you've been in business 2 days or 2 years or 20 years, you are mired in the day-to-day of everything. So when somebody brings something to your attention, you're putting out fires. And so you're not thinking long term, you're thinking, let me put out this fire, and you move on. Whereas when you engage someone like me, I'm solely focused on problem solving, not just this one problem, but I'm creating a solution that will allow you to scale your business. I believe in spending money wisely. I think the worst thing that I've seen business owners do is spend money to have a problem solved that doesn't really address future growth. And so I come in and I look at where you are now. I ask where you plan to be next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, because I want to make sure that when we're crafting a solution, it's going to grow with you. Because if I can solve just your problem that you have right now, I haven't served you. I may have done you an injustice. So I have to ask those questions so that when we work together and we put a system together, it's one that's going to be scalable, that won't require you to scrap it, as so many people find themselves doing. And I think that's why there's a bad taste in a lot of business owners' minds about systems, because they've invested into something that someone said they needed, but it didn't really solve their needs. There is no one size fits all. There is no CRM that is better than any other CRM. There is no email marketing solution that is better than any other email marketing solution. It's what meets your needs at that time. And really, what are you committed to doing? What has the smallest learning curve for you? Consistency kills any bad habits. And that sounds crazy. But if I'm consistently doing something, even if my bad habit is not using CRM, but I'm writing everything down on paper, if I'm consistently writing everything down on paper, that's going to beat any CRM that I'm not using. And so a system is not necessarily electronic. It's just something that's going to meet your needs for the long haul, not short-term solutions, but long-term solutions. And so that's where I try to craft something I'm not trying to wow you. What I'm trying to do is relieve you. I want you to not have tech overwhelm. I don't want you to be afraid that if you touch 3 keys on your keyboard, everything is going to disappear. I don't want you to think if you press the enter button, you're going to lose all of your life's work. I want you to be comfortable with these systems that we create together so that you know how to use it. You can train someone else so that you can bring help on. And if you have a system and only you know how to use it, you still can't bring help on, because now you are the chief everything officer.
Yes, and I guess that's my experience in growing with our parents' business. I had to go to a department that was not working in a mess. I had to create a system that worked, and then I had to train somebody else in that system. So recruit, train, and then move on knowing that everything was working. A couple of things that you said really spoke to me, and I have a question. So one is the no size fits all. I love that. The second thing is the tailored solution. I often say to clients when I'm working with them in a strategic way, it's got to be a system that suits you, right? There are overarching principles. For example, we're going to systemize. We need to bed down our processes. We need to, do certain things. But I say to them, ultimately, you've got to find the little nuances that work for you. So, for example, I'm a trainer and assessor. I love to use pen and paper and write things down. Like in terms of my to-do list, I love whiteboards. I will absolutely use some tech in that space, but I've learned about myself over time. And if somebody was trying to force something onto me and take me away from something that helped my brain, it wouldn't be helpful. The question I have for you is, when we've been implementing systems over the years, and I started systemizing early. I have a bookkeeping practice as well. So I started it 13 years ago, and I really valued systems early. And it's interesting. I started simple. I went to complex. I went back to simple. There was something we tried a couple of years ago that didn't work for us, but I do recognize it works for some. And it was process maps, the flow chart. At first, I thought, oh, these are amazing and dazzling, but they were overcomplicated and they just weren't the right solution for us. So I was interested to know, do you prefer to have process maps involved, or is it back to it's not one size fits all?
It is not one size fits all. However, I'm going to say something that's so basic that you are going to not believe me. So when we were speaking earlier, you said you like planning things and that you are a planner. So if you were planning a birthday party, there are some set steps that you're going to do, regardless if the party's for someone who's 10 or if the party's for someone who's 50. There are some set things that you're going to do. It's the same thing when it comes down to process mapping, because going back, I can't automate what I can't see. So if we're having a conversation and you can't tell me what the process is, I can't automate what I can't see. Now, when we're explaining the process, I may see some areas that could be re-engineered for efficiency. I may be able to see some things that are redundant that you can't see because it's in your head and you've never really looked at it on paper. And so in order to systemize, we have to go through the process mapping, because we can't automate what we can't see. And oftentimes when you talk it out, you'll question yourself, well, I really don't know why we do like this. It's just always been this way. Never even questioned why it was this way. And you may discover there is a much simpler way to do something that you've complicated because you never thought it could be done any other way. So I think a lot of the process mapping also is bringing in somebody who's not as involved or who's not as attached to the current process, and it gives them an opportunity to think outside of the box and introduce maybe some process improvements that really does create efficiencies.
And I think the other area of our business where I've seen process mapping work versus when it didn't work, it's like the process maps were everything. So we had a million of them and everybody just found for what we do, it was like, oh my goodness, it's easier to see things in text and with videos, etc. But what I love personally with process mapping is sometimes where it allows you to see the big picture. So for example, when we have someone first join our organization, or even if it's a client that I want to show, if I can show them the step-by-step way in which everything works in our business, for example, somebody inquires with us, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It really does tie everything together. It allows you to go, oh, wow, I can really see the big picture now, versus we had a group do process maps for us. But yeah, again, there was just so many of them. And we had these terminals, where it's like, was it a yes or a no? And then if it's a no, go here. And it just felt like something that was built for bigger business when we are, a smaller mum and dad business.
But keep in mind also that for growth, it doesn't matter the size that you start. Your processes should be scalable. So even if you're small and you're a solopreneur, when you create your processes, they have to be scalable, or else you'll find yourself at a point where you have to literally stop working to go back and re-engineer processes that no longer work because you've outgrown those processes. And one of the things that I've had some debates with is, when you're first starting, if you're a solopreneur, your focus is making money. While I agree with that 100%, as you are building your business, it has to be scalable, because if not, when you're making money, your system is going to break. And when it breaks, you're not able to make money until you re-engineer that whole process. And that's what's costly. And that's why we see a lot of businesses don't last beyond 5 years, because the foundation was never put in place and they were shaky. So when that last card got added to that stack, everything crumbled.
And look, we've had that trouble internally. When you and I were talking about tech and how when you and I first were involved in any of this, which for both of us is 30 years ago, there was hardly any tech. If we're being honest, it was easier, right? And these days, we might be using a tech today, and then in a year's time, we pivot to something else because it saves us so much time and money. How does the process keep up? So we've definitely had that problem in our business, and I've definitely been rocking in a corner going, how the heck do my standard operating procedures stay up to date? So I get that. That's fascinating. In the last parts of our conversation, what I would love to dive into, because I'm so convinced that what you do and what you have is incredibly powerful, I'd love to kind of know a bit about two things. If you've got a brief story you can share with us about a client you've worked with and you got results with, because I think that can be really helpful.
So I have a client, and she is very successful. So when we started working together, there were no processes in place, and she was transitioning. I was the fourth employee that she hired. 3 of us got hired the same day. So it was she and 4 of us. And again, 3 of us got hired the same day. So we had an opportunity to build her business. When we started working with her, I think she may have been a high 5 or a low 6-figure earner. And by the strategic implementation of systems, meaning we clearly define what our processes were going to be, looked at what systems would meet her needs. So our CRM, our email marketing solutions, our online appointment schedulers. We use Zapier to integrate everything so data flows from the landing page all the way through a purchase. She's now a multi-million-dollar business. And without us implementing those systems and mapping out those processes, honestly, that would not have happened. She can wake up now to emails from her payment processors because while she was asleep, people have been able to make purchases and get onboarded. She's a service provider, so she does not have a product, not even a digital product that she's delivering, but she's a service provider. So when she sleeps, people can book appointments with her and her calendar stays filled. And so it's easier now for her because she's not in that hustle and grind mode. She knows where her money is coming from. Now we're able to do Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, Google ads. So we're able to introduce her to a larger audience now, but it's still not the overwhelm because she sets her schedule, and once her schedule is filled for that day, then they have to choose other days. That would not have happened. She has consistency in her income now, and she knows what she's doing every morning when she wakes up. That's all because we were strategic about what the processes look like and then implementing systems that worked with those processes.
Oh, I can so understand that. And, a quick kind of story that is just this, I feel like it's almost the same as that. It's just my experience in my family's business, apart from what I did, and I feel like I was in the back office systems. My father, he had about 2 pages of what he called norms, which I would call like critical drivers, right? And he's very OCD. They were his systems for his sales team, iconic retailer here. And what he did is he had them all, back when it was more manual, live and breathe those systems. They were inside of a diary. And whenever one of them was struggling, he would call them into the office and say, let's go through the 20 points of your, critical drivers. I'm going to ask you if you're doing each one. And he said, I would always find the one that they were struggling with or weren't doing. And he would say, okay, if we focus on getting you to do that, I bet you'll get the result. And you know what? He grew $100 million organization on those 2 pages of systems. Success leaves clues.
It does. We try to reinvent the wheel. The automation is a simplification of the system. So if the system is broken, you automate it. Now you just have an automated broken system. And that's why it's really important for people to understand that your processes will drive everything. And so you have to have clarity on what that looks like. And I understand how you could have ended up with basically a dictionary of processes that seems overwhelming. But when you think about it, if you were, let's just say you decided I'm retiring and I want to know that my company is in good shape and I can retire and not be concerned about the legacy that I'm leaving. If you have your SOPs either in a binder where somebody can physically read them or on intranet where someone can read them, update them as needed, then they have something from which they can work. And so I think where your overwhelm may have happened is tackling too much at one time. Generally, I work with one division at a time, and we're going to tackle one process at a time. Because if you try to do multiples, it does get overwhelming. But there needs to be an overarching conversation as to what is the picture, and you need one big workflow to understand the high level overview of how work flows, and then you break down those individual processes. So I know that they're not liked, but the process maps are very needed because that's what creates your standard operating procedures, and that frees your time because you can give those processes to somebody else, and if they execute the way they're written, they're going to get the same results that you would get if you were doing it yourself.
Amazing. And I just want to go back to that point that you made, because it's something that I see all the time these days with how fast moving the tech is that you create a system, but that system has to be something that is going to stand the test of time. And if the system revolves around a tech, that can be challenging. And to be honest, I can't wait till after the episode even we dive into more of that. And I know that you can dive into that with listeners as well. So what I'd love to know is how you work and how anyone can work with you. Karen, do you work just one-on-one? Do you have an academy as well? Like, do you have an ecosystem? How do you work?
Honestly, right now I do VIP days because I like to focus. This is going to sound so crazy. I love what I do, but I also love making business easier for the people with whom I work. And so I do VIP days because that allows me to work on a project and get the instant gratification of knowing that we've made an impact and somebody can grow their business successfully. So I do more VIP days. I have what's called a Biz Spa Day. So it's a Biz Systems, Processes, and Automation Day. And the premise is you can go to the spa while you send your business to my spa. So you give your biz a spa day, and during that day, I'm taking care of your systems, your processes, and your automation. And you can actually go to the spa and know that when you return, all of your biz tech will be complete.
Okay. And is that done one-on-one?
That is done one-on-one. It doesn't have to be the biz owner. It could be their designee. So if they want me to work with their EA, if they want me to work with their developer, it's just my focus is solving a problem so that they can get instant gratification and have that problem solved. In the process of creating, I won't call it an academy, but I am going to have what's called Biz Divas. And Biz Divas is going to be, it's the Biz Divas Society, and it's going to be an opportunity for solopreneurs or small business owners who do not have anyone that they can call on when they have tech questions. It will be an opportunity for them to have kind of like their own IT, because they can ask me their tech questions. I'm there to just answer their questions, possibly give them solutions, but not necessarily the implementation.
Yeah, look, definitely ongoing helicopter support. I just think it would be amazing because like I say, we all wear so many hats in our business. And one of my team, for example, she's built for systems. She's got a wealth dynamics profile of mechanic, but the thing is she doesn't wear that hat all the time, right? So again, and she frankly doesn't have the time to be across everything. So if anybody's listening, like I have been, and it's like, I need to talk to Karen, I need to ask her some questions, what's the best way for them to engage with you?
Karen at structureoverchaos.com. Email me. I answer all of my emails myself, and I truly love tech questions. And the bigger the challenge, the more interest you'll get from me, because I have not yet met a tech challenge that has not just totally involved me in every aspect of it. So I'd love to help, because I understand how overwhelming it could be. I started when, oh God, I'm really dating myself. My background is computer science. So my degree is computer science. We used to have the printouts, not the punch cards. So I'm not that old, but we had those green and white sheets where we would do our programs, and then we'd have to wait for the IBM computer to process it, which was at midnight every night. You come in the next morning and you get your program and you see whether or not it worked. And so I love this. I've always been one of those abstract thinkers. And so a challenge is something I will always rise to every time.
Wow, so I'm just so excited. It's just amazing. I'm so glad that we had you on the podcast. It's been an absolute privilege learning from you, learning how to scale our businesses. And just a reminder for everyone, with my bookkeeper hat on, scale is not about growing just your revenue. It's about growing your gross profit and your net profit. It's about growing your time richness.
Oh, yes. I mean, when you get into business, it's for time freedom. And what happens to most of us, like my husband just told me, you traded a 40-hour-a-week job for 120 hours. But I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't. Because people say, oh, really, you've got to go to work. I'm like, well, I can't stay away from it. It's a hobby. I love it. I want to do it 7 days a week. So when your job becomes purely purpose, wowza. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I would love to help you start doing better in business right now by giving you a free little ebook. It's a how-to guide. It's called The 7 Deadly Cash Flow Sins. And also I've developed a business health check for you. It's super high value. Both are available at betterinbusiness.global. If you would like to fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper to start enjoying a return on investment and get the support you need to optimize your business cash and profit and time wealth, simply visit betterinbusiness.global, drop me a line, and I'll connect you with a certified strategic bookkeeper near you. I'll see you in the next episode.